So I'm one of those people. I started on the front line from I was 16 years old working in a small town in Milk River. I was a cook at a golf course there, and I sort of kind of found that passion for food. And so when the season ended and it was time to find another place to work, the hospital made sense. One, because it was a small town and there's not a lot of opportunity, but two, I was very interested in the cooking piece. So I thought, well, let's try this out. And I fell in love with the residents immediately. Like I just loved them. So I was really happy in that role. Eventually, I did leave and I went into Lethbridge and I went to Covenant Health for 5 years, doing the exact same work, still the same love for my residents. But at that point in time, it was like, oh, maybe I should start thinking about school and doing something a little bit more advanced from what I'm doing. So I moved back to Milk River, actually, went back to my job at the hospital there and enrolled at Bow Valley College. And from there, after I finished, I went into an admin support role. Then I went to a supervisor role, and now I'm in my manager role. So I've seen everything from the bottom up. So it's been wonderful. Number one person I would probably credit would be my former supervisor when I was frontline in Milk River. She was the person that initially had kind of taken me aside after a couple of years and said, like, you should really think about furthering your education because you have that leadership quality in you. And that was really nice to hear because at that point in my career, my focus was just I loved the residents. I would do anything just to be around the residents as much as possible. So to hear that and to kind of see that somebody recognized that piece, it's very motivating for me. So I thought, you know what? She's not wrong. Like if I want to go somewhere with this job, like I don't want to say be stuck at the bottom line, but I knew that there was more potential there. So her words definitely helped. And it was really nice too because she was heading into retirement as I was finishing school. So it ended up being a very interesting overlap where she mentored me for a few months and then she retired and then I stepped into her position. So it was really cool that way that we kind of got the full circle mentorship piece. And I'm still very close with her to this day. I just talked to her this morning actually. So yeah, it's nice. It's good to have those people. And even my former manager, whose position I'm in right now, she was kind of the same thing. Like she was just one of those people that she was so good at her job. And so that's really inspiring, like especially in those challenging times like HR stuff and just having somebody that's so well spoken and so just good all around with that kind of stuff. She motivated me as well because it's just like that's what I aspire to be. So I've taken a lot from her as well. I think my biggest piece of advice is if you're thinking about it, pursue it. Because honestly, the schooling, when you understand what your job is, and if you're already working in a similar like food service operation, especially in healthcare, going into those programs, like you're so well equipped for what you're about to learn that honestly, like I don't want to say it was easy. Everything has its challenges, but it was just a lot smoother because everything that I was learning was very practical and it was something I could use when I went back to work and I could see it in my day to day. And so it just kind of really reiterated like this was the right choice. Like this, it just feels right. And I mean, I obviously didn't take any other programs, but that one, it was just like this made sense for me. So I would say if you're on the fence and if you do have that healthcare motivation, definitely think about it because if you're not, I know for me, a lot of people, you should go into nursing, but I just can't handle the nursing side of it. So this was a really good way to be in healthcare and everybody's happy to see the food people. So that's that's a good place to be. Well, it is very easy to get burnt out. I will let you, I will say that honestly. There were definitely times where I did find it challenging just because I was working full-time hours, trying to maintain my school, and I'm a very social person. So for me, if something was going on, it was like I gotta be there. So I was just very like I don't know if this is unique or not. I'm not a procrastinator. I just don't have that function in me to procrastinate. I'm very highly motivated. So for me, I would typically like set aside time and actually say like Thursday from the second I get off work at 6 o'clock till 10. That's school time. I'm not going to be on my phone. I'm not going to watch TV. I'm not going to get sucked into doing something like this is school time. So I would try and schedule that like a week or two ahead just so that I kind of had those blocks in the back of my mind. But at the same time, I would look for little opportunities prior to those moments to get stuff done, because then I knew when it came, it would be less daunting. So if I could find a few minutes here to work on a project or get some reading done, I would. And then when it came time to actually sit down, it was usually less. And so in my mind, it was just like, oh, this isn't so bad. And that's kind of how I managed it. I also did use some vacation time here and there just to book a day randomly, because I figured, it'd take a day off work and just relax, be at home, get some school stuff caught up, and then you don't feel like you're juggling everything. So yeah, it's a lot of balancing. I'm huge. I'm a list maker and I'm a planner. Like, you can ask anyone on my team. It is down to a T. Like, I use my Outlook calendar like it is my number one thing in my life. Like, I've got everything planned in there, down to reminders, or if I know I need to touch base in a week about something, I got that reminder in. So I'm very much a reminder based person, and then I have very detailed notes about just everything, because my portfolio has recently expanded to cover environmental services and linen as well. So that's come with a huge learning curve. And so for me, constant note taking. Like, I every time I have a conversation with somebody and I learn something new, I go jot that down, because I don't want to come back and ask the same questions, and I just kind of want to have that resource. So for me, it's meticulous planning and reminders and lists and things like that, and eventually everything gets done. But I kind of have my current to-do list, and then I have my back burner list of when I have a little bit more time. So structuring it that way helps too, so you're not just staring at this list going, I'm never going to get this done. So for us, with Alberta Health Services, it is unique because we are a provincial organization. So we have provincial teams that really work very hard to put together basically anything that we need. So, for example, we have a provincial menu committee, which I sit on. So at those meetings, that's where we'll discuss, like, actually right now we have a few things that we're adding just for adding some more cultural meals in there, putting some diversity into our menus, renaming things just to be more culturally sensitive to those kind of things. So a lot of our work is done at the provincial level and then cascaded down. So there's certain things, of course, that we're not going to have any choice. Like, this is just a rule that we've all been made to follow now, and generally we agree, because it's it's something that's been made for a reason. But we also have the ability to make decisions at the site level for what works for us. So, for example, my sites are all rural, small little hospitals, and so sometimes when a big decision is made for somewhere that's like the size of Edmonton, it looks a little differently implementing that down at a smaller site. So we just kind of adjust as needed, always working within our policies and procedures, but we do tend to get creative just to make sure that what we're doing matches the direction the site's going as well. I think the biggest has been the challenges that have come with recruitment and retention ever since, and even just sick time. Like, it's not funny. I was going to say it's funny, but we're a lot more cautious now about what we're looking for, and where people used to come to work feeling sick and just thinking, whatever, I can push through. Like, they're not doing that anymore. So that's been a big difference too, because we actually will not let people on site when they're full of COVID symptoms, even if it's not COVID. So that has made a difference as well. Just, I think it's for the better. I mean, it just was kind of this eye opener of having people coming to work sick, where we didn't really, if they felt okay, we just trusted it. Whereas now it's a little bit more, there's more questions involved. So that has been probably the biggest piece for us, especially in rural communities, because staffing is really challenging as it is. So having an extra wrench thrown into that doesn't make things easy. So that's kind of number one. And then the other big change too is just the availability of products and the procurement challenges that we've seen, just not being able to get what we need, like disposables going through the roof, and not being able to find things or source things quick enough. So that piece has been a bit of a challenge. We are way better now, but I remember some of those first years at the beginning of the pandemic, it was just like, holy moly, like, what are we going to feed these guys? We're running out of options. But the nice thing too about small sites is we do have the ability to be a little bit more creative. We're not cooking for 400 people, we're cooking for 20. So we have a little bit more power there to do something special. So that was nice for us, but it was still a challenge. Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm a very firm believer in like leader rounding. So we do have survey periods twice a year. So we will survey our residents. We have quotas to meet. So we're actively doing that like all throughout the year. The only trouble with that is it is anonymous and we don't usually get a ton of like actual workable comments. So the biggest thing for me is scheduling time like with myself, with the supervisors, and just doing that leader rounding and talking to the residents. What do you like? What do you dislike? Like what are the highlights of your meal service here? What can we do to improve? So a lot of the time too, when we do have people that are maybe complaining about their meals, I've found this super often where they don't know what diet they're on. And so they're complaining like, hey, I didn't get offered the chicken pot pie today. And it's like, well, you're on a low sodium diet, but nobody took the time to tell them. So I think it's really important as nutrition leaders that we take that moment when somebody's admitted to our facilities and sit down with them and explain what we do and what their diet is and what that looks like, just so that there's no angst at mealtime, because that is hard when everybody is sitting in a dining room setting and you're not always getting the same options that other people are. Yeah, so that one again, it kind of starts at the provincial level. We have a lot of different celebrations through the year. So, for example, like if we have for Indigenous celebrations, we have a whole menu that actually gets released to every site. It's sent out to all the supervisors with different items that we can order and some ideas to kind of incorporate that into an event. So we do a lot of that at the provincial level where we're just sourcing these different items, a lot of Indian foods, things like that. Chinese New Year we just had, and we have a lot of people that really just love Chinese food. So we try and find things that we can bring in to kind of mix it up a little bit. Being in small rural Alberta, we don't have as much diversity as you would see in a large center, but we still try to do these activities. And if we do have a resident population that is diverse, of course, we want to make them feel like they're at home and included. So we do as much as we can for those theme celebrations. And we also work with our rec therapy departments who will kind of set up entertainment and things like that, where we provide the meal and then we kind of work together just to create a special experience for them. So that's kind of our main go-to for that. But we're always looking at the provincial level for more diverse options because the future is coming and there will be a lot of that. So with the staff, we do celebration activities with them throughout the year. Like we try to do staff appreciation at least a couple times, usually more. It just kind of depends on the supervisor and what their staff population is like. I've seen one time at one of my sites, we did a potluck and one of our cooks was from the Philippines and he was just ready to make us a Filipino meal. So he had put together this whole thing. We had this really nice meal. He made spaghetti and all these different things. And so all the staff came in and we got to kind of celebrate that culture with him. And I did a similar thing at one of my other sites. We had a cook that was from India and he was really eager to try some Indian recipes. Unfortunately, our residents didn't want that because it's not what they grew up with. They're meat and potatoes people. So it wasn't super popular there. But he did bring in stuff for the staff and he would make tea and everything. And so everybody would kind of share in that with him. And in those moments too, there's a lot of question asking and learning about, what you grew up eating and where do you buy these cultural foods that you're eating now. And so there was a lot of learning with that as well. So it tends to, if you have those people that are eager to learn or to teach, we always have the other staff that are eager to learn. So it's just nice to be able to share that. If you have the passion for it, if you're interested in the food service and in that healthcare piece, it is such a rewarding career that you can have. Don't stop trying. Like it might be hard at first to find your way in. Like I'm a perfect example of starting at the bottom and it taking some time. But there is that opportunity, especially if you're motivated, just pursue it. Just go for it. I mean, the schooling for this it's not crazy expensive in the grand scheme of things. And the reward, like just emotionally that you get from it, I think is so worth it. So if anyone's on the fence, I definitely recommend to reaching out to other people in the field, learning about their experience and going from there because it is great. I think it's a wonderful place to be. I wouldn't want any other career.